What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Thursday show, gang. Little short getaway day kind of a slate. Tell you what, we've got kind of an ugly one on our hands. Should be a fun one to talk through, though. There's some interesting pitching available. There's a lot of offense showing. We've got an ugly Coors Field game at the end of the night. A lot of weather to go through. Kind of messy. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Hope your weeks are going well. We're off from the show yesterday. It was down in Asbury Park for a show last night. Fun time. Got rained on all night long. If you were in the Discord, I mentioned we were going to see Bad Religion and the Dropkick Murphys. Show we expected him to go on. Real early show anyway. We expected Bad Religion to hit the stage about 6:45. Got over there right on time. Saw people walking out of the venue. Turned out they postponed for rain, lightning in the area. They'd actually moved it up. Bad Religion went on at 6, which is insanity. People aren't even home from work by 6, let alone at the Stone Pony. They went on at 6, tried to get some songs in, apparently played 5 or 6 songs, went off. Word was that the show was going to be rescheduled. Everybody left the venue. We never even got inside. Walked around a little bit in Asbury, got rained on, completely drenched. Went over to Asbury Lanes, sat in the diner, had a beer. Had some tater tots. We're about to bail, maybe go have dinner or something like that. Go into the can, and as I'm finishing up, 2 other guys walk in, and they're saying, I think they go on at about 8:45. Something like that. We'll probably get a good set. I said, what do you mean? They're going back on? Yep. Show was back on, 8:30, so everybody in Asbury Park ran back over to the Pony for the 8:30 start time. It was a fun time. Not exactly to plan, but a fun time. Hopefully your guys' nights went well. Cujo's here. Colin Sutherland. Tizzlemaine. Trav is in the house today. Could be Trav saying, let's ride. Don't mind a little 5-gamer. Switch things up a little bit. Yeah, I like a little 5-gamer, to be honest. Consolidated options, but still enough to work with. Enough ways to go, get a little bit different. Yeah, Asbury Park, just great little town these days. It's always been a great little town, but, it's really, really come up over the last 15 years or whatever. A lot of great places, good breweries. We had a couple of my buddy lives down there, or several of my friends live there now, actually. But we caught up with my buddy Evan, and he had run over to Kane and gotten a few of the, I guess it's the anniversary version of the Head High. Really solid. But, we were going to go meet back up with him over at whatever the name of the Irish pub is, right on the beach there, a couple blocks up. Not on the boardwalk, a block in. It's like a woman's name. I forget the name of the pub. But good place. We've been there before. But there's just all sorts of really, really good restaurants around there. Yeah, you want to get off the train and head east. And you can't really go wrong. So let's dive into this one. Not everyone is here to talk about Asbury Park or how my night was. It was wild. I had to wait like an hour coming back after getting off the train at Secaucus at like 1 in the morning. I guess Chris Brown was at the Meadowlands. So that must have been a crazy sold out show because like 12,000 people were waiting for Ubers at Secaucus Station last night. Nice, Tiz. Yeah, I mentioned it in Discord. I'm not sure if you caught it, but I actually jumped on that just a little while ago after lock for that slate, but before that game started, just to throw in that he was going to be potentially low owned. That's exactly what I was expecting, just because there's no coverage of that slate out there. And that's a big time prospect making his debut in a good spot. But yeah, as Mylanes is about to point out, he got robbed apparently of a home run in his first plate appearance. Appreciate that, Trav. Try saying smash the like on your way in the door. Tiz is a Dropkicks fan. Nice. Yeah, I've been a Dropkicks fan for going way back. It's been annoying, though, the last couple of years with Bad Religion. I missed them last time they came through. It was just a bad day. And then this one. So it's been a minute since I've seen the old guys. Anyway, Marlins at the Guardians to start us off. Just a 7.5 run total there. Interesting one. two good, but also potentially gettable from time to time pitchers. It's Edward Cabrera, who's having a nice year for the Marlins. Exactly one earned run in each of his last 4 starts, spiked an 11 strikeout game over 8 innings against the Braves last time out, capable of significant ace caliber upside, but at times can be gettable. This has just been a very strong year for him. Tanner Bybee has had a little bit more problems throughout the season. 4 earned runs exactly in his last 3 starts. Comes with a lot of hits. There are strikeouts available. That Marlins lineup greatly improved. They're showing a little bit of upside against. I think that's going to be at least 3 out of 4 things in play. Not sure how much we use the Guardians to attack Cabrera, but I do like the pitching in that one. The Phillies pulling a 5.0 implied total, the second highest non-course total behind the Mets. Both significant numbers, obviously. Phils are going up against Brad Lord. They're answering back with Jesus Luzardo. Obviously, we like Luzardo quite a bit against the Nationals. 3.61 implied total. Not a great team overall, just a couple big bats up top. They get Dylan Cruz back today. They actually DFA'd Nathaniel Lowe after I believe he hit a big home run yesterday. But he got DFA'd, so he's not going to be in the lineup. But they do get Dylan Cruz back. That's another should be good player eventually, but completely undeveloped so far. So should be a very good spot for Luzardo. And Brad Lord, the interesting impact he's having, I do like the Phillies quite a bit with that big total, but he's decent throughout his minor league career at keeping the ball in the yard. He's given up 7 home runs over 85 innings in the show this year. A little bit of mixed work between relief, some bulk relief stints, some short starts, and some full starts. Throughout his minor league career, every stop of the minors was like a 0.75 or lower home run per 9 number. So he's not the easiest guy to hit home runs off. Not that that's going to take our eyes off of Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, etc., the big home run bats in that Phillies lineup. The Braves going up against Kodai Senga, a erratic, I think is fair pitcher. A lot of walks. Decent strikeout upside on the right day, but hasn't really been finding them lately. A lot of earned runs around the edges and doesn't really go deep into games. Does have good stuff. Could make it work against a Braves lineup that largely goes out there and flails these days. A lot of swing and miss. There are still some big upside power bats in that lineup and a lot of gettable pieces. So I think we can maybe throw some Braves at their 3.85 implied total at Kodai Senga and hope for the best. Hope the bad version of Senga shows up, kind of like if you play against Robbie Ray. And then going the other way, a few Senga darts against the Braves, I think are very much in line. Bryce Elder going up against the Mets, probably not a great idea. 5.27 implied total for the Mets. That said, on a short slate, if we're looking to slide through with a lower owned pitcher, we do have to pick one of these spots. And that ugly Coors Field game is a difficult one. So it's limited as far as what you're going to be able to get to in that range. The Tigers against the Twins, pitcher of the day, Tarek Skubal, looks tremendous. Had a bumpy one the last time out. 4 2/3, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs, struck out 6. That was against the Angels. We talked that day about the Angels, just those big right-handed power bats. Forget who actually hit the home runs, but they managed to break through against the presumptive Cy Young winner. He'll come right back tonight and look absolutely fantastic. The Twins, that diminished lineup at a 3.16 implied total. Definitely a good spot for Skubal. Very expensive, super popular, no secret. The Tigers bats, 4.42 implied there, 4.43 implied total. Maybe not standing out as much as they ought to. It looked like a couple guys were getting some fairly high ownership, but I made the home run pick of the day from that team. And it is a guy who, when I checked ownership earlier anyway, very, very good player. Not getting enough love out there by the public. So I really like that spot for some Tigers bats, especially some of their power hitters against Bailey Ober, who's been super gettable throughout the season. Definitely interested there. Ober is an up and down guy. Last time he came out, 6 innings, just 1 earned run, struck out only 4, walked 1, but it was a fairly clean start. That was against the Royals. Typical Royals kind of a game. Start before that, 4 earned runs over 5 against Cleveland. 2 home runs allowed. The start before that one faced these Tigers at Detroit. 5 2/3, 7 earned runs, 11 hits, 4 home runs, 5 strikeouts, a walk. Could I interest you in a game like that by the Tigers today? The game before that one against Seattle, he allowed 3 home runs. 2 starts prior to that against Texas, he allowed another 4 home runs. So in the since June 12th, he's allowed 4 home runs twice, 3 home runs once, and 2 home runs once, and 1 home run once. It hasn't been a good stretch. Very targetable there. So if these guys are going on their own, that is super interesting. And then the Twins, just going to be the contrarian team of the day, obviously going up against Scooble, but that is a very low total. Don't love it, but if you want to get thin on ownership and just go on a complete angle against the very best pitcher available, then that's your team. And then we get to Coors Field. It's Erod against the Rockies at Coors Field. Probably is on the board. We'll talk it through. Innings are there. Extreme roller coaster. There's nothing at all safe about Erod at Coors Field, but that is a gettable Rockies lineup with a lot of strikeout in it. On the right day, you're getting through that pretty nicely. There are a lot of wrong days in that equation. It's a lot easier going the other way. You do not want to play Bradley Blaylock against the Arizona Diamondbacks in Coors Field. D-backs drawing a 7+ implied total, Rockies at a 5-5, but slip a little bit down the board. Not the top stacks of the day. The Diamondbacks are the top stack of the day. And then we get, what was it? Let me pull up the actual board here. It was D-backs, Phillies, Mets, Tigers in that order. The Tigers showing a little bit more value. Tigers top home run rating of the day. The one thing with Philly is that, again, that potentially keeping the home run number down. But I like all those stacks quite a bit. They're going to be the more popular stacks of the day, though, too. Weather-wise, they had a delay in the Seattle-Baltimore game earlier. So presumably games in that general area you do want to watch. Roth had Philly, Washington, yellow, green, saying basically the same forecast. There's storms in the area today. Can't necessarily nail it down right now. Just keep an eye on it as we head toward lock. But seems okay. Seems like we're going to get the game in. Same thing in New York for the Braves at Mets. He's got it green, yellow, and saying the rain will probably entirely stay away from the ballpark, but it is on the board there. Then the Detroit at Minnesota game, unfortunately, does seem like a lot of storms in the area. He's got like a paragraph like that long about it. The big thing with that one, I guess, is that we're probably going to have to take a flyer. It seems like one of those situations where we won't know. It's not a delay, then late start, and we're fine kind of a spot. It's if we start, we're hoping for the best, and we might get screwed. So definitely some concern there about a very important game to this slate. That would lose Scooble. That would lose those upside Tigers bats. That's a biggie. And then the Arizona-Colorado game has rain in the area, but probably fine. Maybe they get an in-game delay at some point, but game's going to play. Obvious, expensive, and obvious. 11,000 on FanDuel, 11,900 on DraftKings. Tyler Scooble, easily the top of the board. That's a very gettable Twins lineup, and it doesn't even need to be. It's Tyler Scooble. Michael Knack, Brewers. I've been giving the Brewers credit all year. That is a good baseball team. I don't necessarily know how they do it. They're not particularly good at much of anything. Or they don't have like standout stats, but they're good at everything, right? They're not great at anything, but they're good at everything. And they've been doing that all year. And the recent stretch has come without Jackson Churio. But a solid year by Christian Yelich, a player I've always liked. Like, that's a good team. Great pitching staff, too. Love that pitching staff. Used pieces of that pitching staff throughout the year. Big Woodruff owner in the Dynasty League. Oh, Mylene's had Owen Casey at plus 750 for that home run odds. Oof, man. Well, we'll have a couple more cracks at it. It was a good sign, if nothing else, in that first plate appearance that he rocked one at the major league level. He's got to fill him with confidence if you're into that sort of thing. Jesus Luzardo at 8,400. I don't really understand that price at all for him against the Nationals, especially on a 5-game slate. That's just silly. Take advantage. It's not quite a free square, but that is a super, super discount. So fire away with Jesus Luzardo shares, especially if Scooble doesn't go. He's going to get stupid popular as the top SP1 at that point. I like him a little bit better than Bybee, than Cabrera, facing each other in that game. Bybee slightly out-projecting Cabrera, but that could arguably go the other way. Miami's been an improved lineup. Bybee's been very bumpy throughout the season. Little bit of long memory in both parts of that equation. But either one of those guys, capable, playable, fairly priced, 84.77 for Bybee. You could argue that's a cheap price for Bybee, especially against the 3/8s that are surrounding him there. Putting him in the same class as Bailey Ober against the Tigers, probably not. So I think that's a decent discount. 84 on FanDuel works. Cabrera probably does have the bigger upside. 89, 87 makes sense to me price-wise. Senga, again, just really erratic. Lot of downside for a short start, which is why I think he's cheaper on FanDuel at the 82. But I think that comes with a fairly big asterisk that you're probably not getting the quality start here. 89 on DraftKings, I would assume more expensive because we're not worried about that shorter start, well, at least in some ways. But that seems like a really high price for him, considering everybody in the 3 spots above him is cheaper. It's just a little weird to slot Cody Senga into this slate. In no way safe against the Braves. Over against Detroit, extreme visible downside, but usable. A guy who has been much better in the past. 7,200 on both sites is in play, but there's weather, there's extreme power showing on the other side. It's everything you don't want. In a weird way, 62-63 for Brad Lord. If he does manage to get through the Phillies with limiting sequencing and not actually allowing home runs, 62-63 is a reasonable price for 5-6 innings of Brad Lord there. And then we're just really picking at the bottom of the board with Bryce Elder, with Bradley Blaylock. I don't think Blaylock is overly playable, and Elder has shown a couple decent games this year. Maybe he's the underappreciated guy on this slate, but that is a very challenging Mets lineup, even though they've been struggling to win ball games overall. Swoosh Bang saying, I was pissed I didn't add Casey. Be shocked if he doesn't bomb one. Wonky Washington lineup. Let's see what we got with the Wood, Cruz, Bell, DeYoung, Adams, Lyle, House, Tenna, and Jacob Young. That's an interesting one. So that was a pitching slate. Let's dive into some game by game. Starting up top, I think we've got this one too. Yeah, Marlins lineup is in. Looks pretty similar to what we've been seeing lately. How about the start for Jacob Marcy, by the way? He's been crushing the ball. Really interesting player. So far, Marcy, 16.7% barrel, 60% hard hit over his 48 plate appearances. He's slashing 436, 542, 872 in the teeny tiny sample. He's hit 3 home runs, stolen 6 bases, 280 WRC plus over that stretch, a 516 xWOB onto the surface. That you could make an argument that means he's underperformed what he's actually how he's actually connected with the ball. Obviously, we're going to cool around the edges as time goes on, but the kid's off to a crazy good start. There's some talent there. 37-31 remains very, very cheap, kind of in the heart of this lineup and surrounded by decent bats. This is in many ways a maybe not 9-man lineup because I'm not the biggest Liam Hicks and Otto Lopez fans in the world, but they've been fine all season. And you get quality with Troy Johnston down the bottom, Graham Pauley at nearly the dead min price for both guys. Johnston hasn't done anything in 23 plate appearances yet, but there's a little pedigree there. Graham Pauley's had a bigger sample over which he's also struggled. But again, as we've said many, many times this year, development, not linear. They're giving these guys a chance to figure it out at the major league level. And honestly, if you're the Marlins, that's the right way to go. Let these kids all kind of come up together. Some of them are succeeding in a huge way already. So going up against a scuffling Tanner Bybee, I think that 367 implied total may be a little bit low. I don't want to get way too far out over our skis here. It is still the Miami Marlins, but it's an interesting enough spot. It was funny when I first loaded up the slate earlier, I accidentally had the Mets lineup in there. I had dropped the Mets into the projected slab for the Marlins when I was throwing the new projected lineups for the day in. And I was putting in the data for the stacks board, and the Marlins had like an 11 average projection. I was like, holy shit, the Marlins look amazing today. And it took me a second to realize that, oh no, they don't have Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in the lineup. but they do have Kyle Stowers. They do have, I guess, Ramirez. Some really interesting bats. But more to the point, Bibee, 131 innings this year, pitching decently deep into most of his starts, but a 4.60 ERA with a 4.11 xFIP under the surface. It's not what we expect from Tanner Bibee, but that xFIP is not really indicative that he's been, getting all that unlucky. He's just not pitching that well. 21.5% strikeouts on 10.2% swinging is okay, but it's not special. 7.1% walk to go with that is fine, but nothing special. The premium contact numbers, not aggressively bad, but also not aggressively good. Of nearly 4% home run rate that we can maybe exploit with some of this power that the Marlins have. Not that anybody's popping through the top of the model. We've got at least some respectable numbers in there that we can play, and some guys that we know can hit home runs, guys who have been regularly hitting the ball hard all year long. I do think at the 77, at the 84, Bibee's on the board. There's only so many places to go, and this is one of the safer ones weather-wise. It does have a reasonable Vegas total on the other side to go target. But again, you're dealing with a lower-end version of Bibee. What he hasn't really gotten throughout the season, outside of a start all the way back on April 5th, when he gave up 7 earned runs, and then 2 starts after that, he gave up 6 to Baltimore, hasn't gotten destroyed. His downside has come more via a lack of strikeout and then 3-4 run type games, which, obviously 4.60 ERA, a couple of 5s in there. He's given up a fair number of hits in most of his starts, especially over this last stretch. 6, 7, 8, 5. Shorter starts in some of those. Did get out to 7 innings against Baltimore, but still gave up 6 hits, 5 runs total. Only 3 were earned. Home run allowed, only 4 strikeouts, didn't walk anybody. Had an 8 strikeout game, 3 back, struck out 7, but walked 4. Allowed 4 earned runs on 5 hits, over 5 1/3 to the White Sox his last time out. It's not somebody I want to enthusiastically get behind, but would definitely have some Tanner Bibee across 150 lineups. In 20, I think you have a fair chunk, especially if you're playing on the 2-starter site. I do think the idea of, as Gundacker says, throwing a blanket over the win and playing both of these guys against one another is probably a thing on this slate, especially if we lose the Scooble share off the top. Right, just going to that combo is not crazy. And you hope to pick off the win bonus out of somebody. And then, Lusardo obviously is your problem there. Nobody else down here is remotely guaranteed for any kind of quality, nor are they guaranteed a win. So there's probably more likelihood of a win on one of those 2 guys rather than any of these guys. ECAB comes in with a $8,700 price tag on DraftKings, $89 on FanDuel, pitching to a 25.7% strikeout rate this year, just 7.9% walks, 12.4% swinging, and a 30.6% CSW. Has been tremendous. He is allowing a little bit of hard hit, a little bit of exit velo. Barrels are fine, and he's keeping the ball down to just an 8.8 degree average launch. So he has a little bit of an impact through the home run numbers. You still have a presence for Kyle Manzardo, for Jose Ramirez, a little bit for CJ Kayfus a couple spots later, but he does have an impact. 2.71% home runs on those kind of numbers, especially the launch angle. Very real. 110 rating by Stuff Plus as well this year. Last year it was just 101. He pitched to a 4.95 ERA, a 3.94 xFIP though. Had a very similar strikeout rate, but walked way more hitters. That's where the problem comes in. If he loses it with the walks, and that's been his kind of calling card over the last handful of seasons. 14 starts back there. Same. The strikeout rate's almost a match each one of these years. What he's done is cut that walk rate basically in half. Not quite, but you get me. So something to watch. If that slips, even if it's just for a day, that's where you get your big time. I guess those links aren't working. That's where you get your big time downside day with Cabrera. That said, he's going up a team against a confirmed Guardians lineup with just a 7.1% average walk rate. They also have a 23.8% strikeout rate for this lineup. That is impacted a little bit by Kayfus at 30% over 33 plate appearances. He's been decent. Not a bad start for a high-end prospect there. But you've got a lot of realistic strikeout there, down through here, a fair amount up in this territory. It's just Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan that bring it down at all. When we're not including those two, 27.9%. And I'll be fair, I'll leave Kayfus out of it. 27.4%. There's plenty of strikeout available here for Edward Cabrera. Starting at the top of the Marlins, I know I went through them briefly there, but Xavier Edwards for 44 for 3,000. 2 home runs on the board in 471 plate appearances. I think he went deep yesterday, but that's not his game. His game is getting on base, stealing bases, creating havoc out there, creating runs. 109 WRC plus for the season, getting on at a 363 clip. Very solid slash line overall. Good table setter, if nothing else. I had a Kyle Stowers, who has tremendous power. 25 home runs for him in 448 plate appearances, also slashing 286, 365, 541. Don't discount the overall with Kyle Stowers. That is a very, very good slash line. 147 WRC plus on the season. And fairly priced. 32 on FanDuel, no problem. 52 on DraftKings is very reasonable for the production this year. The premium contact is ridiculous. Get a lot of premium contact out of Agustin Ramirez in the next spot at 4,100 at 29 on FanDuel. You don't need the catcher spot, but you also don't have a necessary go-to first baseman in this lineup. I do like either one of these guys and would slot them in at first base for a very cheap price. But if I'm just using the top end of the lineup, putting Agustin Ramirez in the lineup for 29, just using him like he's their first baseman, love it. 17 home runs in 410 plate appearances, a 202 ISO, just a 95 WRC plus, but there's a lot to like about the power, the fact that he's even stolen 7 bases. He's just not getting on base as much as he ought to. 283 on base has an impact on that WRC plus. Everything over here, though, is tremendous. That 358 xWOBA tells us that that's going to correct in the short term. Hicks, again, as a secondary catcher, a guy you can use at first base. 29-24, mix and match quality. 262, 356, 367. He's been getting on base effectively. He has been creating runs in his limited sample, or medium sample. Doesn't really strike out much. Does draw walks. It's an interesting enough guy that people will probably be mostly working around. A lot of people will be getting just Ramirez at catcher and taking a first baseman elsewhere and going down this way. So I would wager that Liam Hicks probably slips through the cracks a little bit among people who are rostering Marlins. He's not tremendous, but he's capable. 11 home runs, 11 stolen bases for Otto. 89 WRC plus is a little problematic, just getting on at a 313 clip. Doesn't hit the ball particularly hard, but is low strikeout, 14.6% strikeout rate. So you're dealing with a lot of contact, put the ball in play, create something via BABIP. He's inexpensive, but I don't love the option at shortstop with some bigger options on the board. That said, if you're going to cut into shortstop as far as the quality of the player goes, doing it on a smaller slate like this probably makes some sense. And he's been fine. He's been a productive member of this team in spots, at least for counting stats for DFS production. I talked about Marcy and the ridiculous start. He's still very fairly priced at 37, at 31. People may be sleeping on it because he's on the Marlins and nobody pays attention to the Marlins. Edilberto Hernandez at 32, 27. Another player off to a tremendous start. I'm really not sure how DraftKings hasn't caught up to that price at all. 3,200, very cheap. 152 plate appearances now. He's got 7 home runs, a 201 ISO. He's created runs 29% better than average. Kid's just been good. There's nothing crazy surprising about the production. 10.4% barrel, 43.8% hard hit. He's making good contact up there. Strikes out a little bit at 28.9. That needs to cool off. 7.9% walk needs to go up if we're going to stay at this kind of a strikeout level. But overall, that's a good player. Very affordable. And then, since we got time, Johnston had 12 home runs, 31 stolen bases in 354 plate appearances down in AAA this year. He's a 28-year-old, so it's not, we're bordering on that quad A player type of a situation, but it's a productive guy. Low strikeout throughout his minor league career. Never had since 2022 when he struck out 20.7% of the time, he's been sub 20%. At every stop through the minors. 12 home runs, 31 steals this year, a 188 ISO, 109 WRC plus. Interesting hitter, 345 WOBA. Last season, in 528 plate appearances, all in AAA as a 27-year-old, 276, 339, 424 slash line. Didn't hit for as much power, just 11 home runs, 17 stolen bases. But a quality bat, 105 WRC plus. And then the year before that, he was big time. 26 years old. He made 600 plate appearances, 374 of which came at AA, and it was a little bit old to be at AA at that point. And then 226 came at AAA, but he totaled out to 26 homers, 24 stolen bases, 102 runs, 116 ribbies, 307, 399, 549 slash, a 146 WRC plus. Again, probably the advanced age at AA had an impact there, but the kid is demonstrably good at baseball, and he's very, very cheap at $2,100 on FanDuel, $2,000 on DraftKings with eligibility at first and outfield on both. And then Graham Pauley, I think we've done this with before, but Pauley's still only 24. Came over from the Padres organization back in 2023 as just a 22-year-old who advanced from low A up to double A over the course of that season. 23 home runs, 22 stolen bases, a 308, 393, 538 slash line. The next season in 2024, he made 481 plate appearances across starting the season in AAA with San Diego, made 301 plate appearances there, then ended up in AA with Miami, 160 plate appearances, and then 20 with them up at AAA. Totaled out to 14 home runs, 7 stolen bases, just 229, 333, 393. We saw a pretty significant dip there at the AAA level, right? Being a 23-year-old that aggressively promoted. Keep in mind, the year before, he only had 88 plate appearances in AA. So they aggressively threw him up there. He scuffled a little bit in the AA plate appearances, the 160, after coming to the Marlins as well. But there are positive indicators. He was sub 20% strikeout. He was 18.9% strikeout, 13.3% walk in those 301 plate appearances out in AAA. So there was quality there despite the struggles. It wasn't a kid who was just up there flailing. He just wasn't completely finding success. This year so far in AAA as a 24-year-old, a little bit more foot on the ground, 7 home runs, slashing 260, 340, 496, a 123 WRC plus. This is over 144 plate appearances, so 7 home runs is a significant total. 236 ISO, 11.1% strikeout, 9.7% walk. The 152 plate appearances in the show have been more problematic, as you can see. 239, 318, 388, 97 WRC plus, just 4 home runs. But knowing that it took a second, there were some growing pains when he went up to AAA and was so quickly promoted, and then he kind of figured it out. Seeing that it's almost identical to what happened in that AAA season. Low strikeout, sub 20%. Advanced walk rate, 10.5% over these first 152 plate appearances this year in the show. He did have a cup of coffee for 32 plate appearances last year in the show, but who cares? So I think that is a interesting bat hiding down the bottom of their lineup. 2,100 is very cheap on DraftKings. 2,200 with first, second, and third base eligibility on FanDuel. If you're stacking up a bunch of Marlins, or honestly, even if you're building one, that is not a bad option to consider. Especially just with the low strikeout and the walk to throw up against a average strikeout pitcher. You can just get him on base, bring him back around to the top of the lineup for a cheap price. Really interesting pair of bats down the bottom of the Marlins. Stephen Kwan at 4,000 to 2,900 atop the Guardians lineup. I do think there's playability in the Guardians. You catch the wrong day with Cabrera and you're taking off with free chances via some walks. Again, hasn't been a problem this year, and they're not the best team to exploit it, but it's there. Stephen Kwan succeeds more via the hit tool, just 8.8% strikeout, 8.2% walk, so everything's in play. It doesn't hit the ball hard. Needs to find success via BABIP, direct the ball to the right part of the field. This year, it's been kind of a mixed bag. 275, 335, 392, 10 home runs, 11 steals, a 105 WRC plus. It's been fine, but he's not been a mandatory player all that often. Ana Martinez at 32, 27, 10 home runs for him, 6 steals. Mix and match quality player in the 2 spot. Fair amount of strikeouts. Not really a player who draws any walks. 22.3 against just 3.8% walks this year. Last year it was 19.5 against 8.9. A little bit more respectable. Hasn't hit the ball hard for the trade-off in more strikeout, less walk. We're not getting any kind of, I guess 1.7% barrels has gone up to 3.7, but that's pretty mediocre. Jose Ramirez is a superstar. 25 home runs, 33 stolen bases, right on schedule. Monster season as usual, 141 WRC plus. You're putting him in most things that you do with Guardians. Kyle Manzardo's gotten really interesting. He's up to 21 home runs, 245 ISO, a 123 WRC plus. Fair amount of strikeout at 25.5% against just 9 points against a 9.6% walk rate. It's okay. I'd like to see that walk get into the double digits to offset some of the Ks, but he's been very good. He's been hitting the ball squarely, 12.6% barrel rate. Really, really interesting player. He was a high profile prospect. Took him a second to really get grounded here, but I think we're off and running with Manzardo now. He's been on a good run lately too. Since July 29th, which I'm sticking in there because it was a 2 home run day. But that was the start of the hot streak here. So we're talking about 45 plate appearances since the end of July. 351, 467, 784. Creating runs 141% better than average by WRC plus. A 432 ISO, 5 home runs. Decent counting stats across the way there. Oddly, only 1 double in that stretch. He's had 13 hits in the 45 plate appearances. 5 of them were home runs. Only 1 was a double. But he's become a really interesting power bat, and you're going up against a pitcher who, while keeping the ball down pretty decently and limiting home runs, not impossible to hit home runs against. And when he misses, he can miss bad. And you do have some hard hit. You do have some exit velo here. So it could be an interesting day for Kyle Manzardo. Definitely the second most impactful bat that you can get from the Guardians today. Gabriel Arias also hits the ball hard. Player that people do not get excited to go to because he's only slashing 236, 290, 393 for all that premium contact. But he's always hit the ball fairly squarely. He just has a strikeout issue, 31.6% strikeout against just 5.8% walk. He doesn't return anything for all those Ks. So he's a problematic hitter. He's a guy you can mix into stacks of Guardians, though, if you're going in that direction. They probably play better as like a secondary stack today. Maybe you're using 3 of them, 2 of them in spots on DK, depending on what you're building. But Arias would be in the mix for extended stacks of Guardians. Another player, though, that I don't necessarily love at short. CJ Kayfa's first and outfield eligible on DraftKings. Same thing on FanDuel, 27-23. A good start, 33 pretty good plate appearances. Home run on the board, a stolen base, a 109 WRC plus. He's been interesting. David, I'm not sure why his barrel and hard hit aren't showing up. Probably something to do with the CJ initial. It's corrected in one spot, but not the other, I guess. David Fry, there is power there. 6 home runs. Typically, we're looking to get Fry against a lefty. This is probably not a great spot. It's probably just a spot that Cabrera is going to exploit that strikeout rate. He can make good contact. 6 home runs on the board, but Sub Mendoza, a 238 on base. Pretty lame. Brian Rocchio, mostly here for defense. Austin Hedges, not that much of a bat. 128, 226, 229. It gets really ugly down toward the bottom of the Guardians lineup. Yet another reason that you don't necessarily want to stack this team, and keeps Cabrera nicely on the board. Cabrera, Bybee, even though it slightly projects the other way, I think I like it better that way. And then Marlins bats over Guardians bats, even though the Guardians have the higher total. So we're completely flipping this one on its head. And we'll skip the Phillies game. Moving on. Phillies, Nationals. Still no Phillies. I don't think I've mentioned the website, promotion, anything like that. We definitely want to check out rotoscouts.com. There's been a thing scrolling across the bottom of your screen all along here. Through the end of August, weekly plans cost $5 flat. Saving you a couple bucks a week off your weekly plans. Promo code 5ME, just like you see it right there. So check that out if you're looking to subscribe. You never have before. You want to come back ahead of football season. Just looking to play a couple baseball slates along the way. Costs you significantly less, 3 times less than the entry in the main contest on FanDuel and on DraftKings, I believe. The 20 on DraftKings or the 15 still? 18? FanDuel kicked a couple of them. Tuesday slates have been 18 on FanDuel for their big contest. They still do run that pretty solid little $3 one, though. Phillies a 5.0 implied total. One of the more interesting teams of the day in terms of targeting some bats. Brad Lord for the season, a 3.28 ERA, 3.70 xFIP, just a 2.01% home run rate. Another guy who does keep the ball down, 8.5 degree average launch, a 4.8% barrel rate allowed on the season. There is a little bit of hard hit available there. And that speaks to where the Phillies might be able to just sequence, hit the ball hard, pick up some singles and doubles, and do their thing, rounding the bases for a few trips. But he's been effective, and he is limiting the home runs. You can see even Kyle Schwarber, 8.39 in the home run model today. How infrequent is it to see Kyle Schwarber below the magic number? He is almost always above a 10. He's got 42 long balls on the season. He's also stolen 10 bases, getting on at a 372 clip. He's just literally one of the best players in baseball. But a little bit checked down in his best attribute today. But even with that, it's not like Lord is really a threat for strikeout. He has an 8% walk rate against that 20.1% strikeout rate. And these two guys can probably exploit that side of it. I'm not really worried about him punching Kyle Schwarber out 3 times. Maybe he gets him once, but there's a lot of damage to be done from this top end of the Phillies. So much as Lord might limit the home runs, might get through a few clean innings, I think Vegas is telling us with that 5-run total. I think the just quality of the Phillies on a short slate speaks to wanting to get to them quite a bit. At 63, maybe some shares of Lord on DraftKings work as just a cheap OSP2 dart, and you're just hoping for those 5-6 clean innings. But you're not expecting to pick up much strikeout. Maybe he gets to that 1 in 5 number. There are some strikeouts in the Phillies lineup, but it's not a problem for them. Going the other way, Lusardo just looks like one of the top pitchers of the day. 4.20 ERA, sure, but a 3.35 xFIP. Has a 12.9% swinging strike rate, pitching to a 26.8% strikeout rate. A few walks on the board, but nothing problematic. Too many runners on base, I would say, has run that ERA up a little bit. The 1.35 whip explains that away against this. Allowing just a 6.5% barrel rate. There are some fly balls in there, but he's managed premium contact and power effectively throughout the season. A 2.13% home run is not at all problematic. Well above average stuff. You can see the difference between the two pitchers just via Stuff Plus. Just how their pitches travel through space and time. Last time out for Lusardo, 6 innings, quality, 4 strikeouts and a walk, 1 earned run on 7 hits against Texas at Texas. Start before that, 3 earned runs on 5 hits, but struck out 7 against the Orioles, and the 3 earned runs came on 2 homers. Otherwise, fairly clean game. Some happenstance there that he doesn't typically allow with those home runs. Against the White Sox, 7 innings, 2 hit ball, shut him out over 7, 4 strikeouts and a walk. You could ask for more Ks there. He struck out either 4 or 7 in his last 7 starts. 3. Yeah. 3 of them were 4. No, I'm sorry. That goes even further back. Jesus. That's weird. In his last 10 starts, he struck out exactly 4 or 7 hitters. He's struck out 4 in 4 of those 10 and 7 in the other 6. That's completely bananas. Pitching deep in the ball games, 6 2/3 back on June 22nd, 7 innings on July 9th. Short one in there, melted down against Cincinnati, had a 5-run day back on the 4th of July, just lasted 2 innings in that one. Otherwise, decent. There's a 6-run game there against the Red Sox on the 23rd. Every now and then he can get got, but he's one of our premium pitchers of the day going up against this Nationals lineup. Limited plate appearances in the active roster sample against lefties for the Nationals. Probably the impact of swapping Dylan Cruz onto the active and taking Nathaniel Lowe out of it. But these are not good numbers across the board this season for the Nationals. James Wood, Dylan Cruz, no CJ Abrams up toward the top against the lefty. Another problem for this team. Wood is tremendous, but he's had a little bit of a slide lately. I will say 10 of his 25 home runs have come against same-handed pitching, though. So not really problematic there. Slashing 281, 341, 506 with a 225 ISO against same-handed pitching. That ISO matches his ISO against righties. The slash line is very close. Just a little bit different. Hits for more average against lefties, but gets on base a little bit more against righties. Draws a significantly higher walk rate against righties, but also strikes out a little bit more. But if you just want to boil it down to a number, again, the ISOs are a direct match at 225. WRC plus 133 against lefties, 131 against righties. OPS 847 against lefties, 841 against righties. Dude's just good against everybody. So you do have a decent starting point there. Dylan Cruz back in the lineup, over 173 plate appearances. He was sub Mendoza, 266 on base, really limited, might still be underdeveloped. Remember, he was just drafted a couple seasons ago. Did make good contact, 14.5% barrels in that stretch, but struck out too much, didn't draw enough walk. There is upside in getting to that bat with limited ownership, just the talent against the lefty in the 2 spot in this lineup. Hitting between James Wood and Josh Bell's got a little bit going for it. But you're riding with an underdeveloped player who was striking out a lot against a talented left-handed strikeout pitcher. Josh Bell at 29-27 has hit the ball squarely throughout the season. It's been one of his better years overall. 15 home runs on the board, 166 ISO, a 105 WRC plus, just 17.8% strikeout, 11.7% walk. So a capable hitter there. Paul DeYoung slotting in at just 31-27. A guy who's always put good wood on the ball from the right side. 10% barrels, 42.5% hard hits this year. 4 home runs and 124 chances isn't bad. A 165 ISO is okay. It's not the 200 that we're hunting for. Doesn't make him a star by any means, but he's an adequate bat with a little bit of pop. 4.47 sounds about right to me in the home run model. Riley Adams, slightly over that number, does have a little bit of thump against lefties. 10.6% barrel, 45.7% hard hit overall. You are dealing with 5 straight guys there with double-digit barrels over, not gigantic samples for several of them, but okay samples. Some of those guys have done similar things in years past. A lot of hard hit through there, but there's plenty of strikeout through there. That's an average strikeout rate of 28.7. That's pretty high. And then we get to this stretch of Dalen Lyle, Brady House, Jose Tena, Jacob Young. Young having a completely lost year. 292 plate appearances. He's only stolen 12 bases. He's getting on at a sub 300 clip, 59 WRC plus. 162 weak plate appearances out of Jose Tena. 5.4% barrel, nearly a 40% hard hit, but he's coming away with no home runs, a 110 ISO, 88 WRC plus. Brady House, mix and match quality third baseman at the absolute best. A little bit of hard hit there in his 167 plate appearances, but what does it amounted to? A .082 ISO, 2 home runs, 3 steals, a 61 WRC plus. Lyle, arguably the most effective bat, also the best spot in the batting order. Cheap outfielder, mix and match quality guy, though. There's really not a lot to like, 92 WRC plus. The only guys in this lineup with positive WRC plus numbers are James Wood and Josh Bell. Definitely looking like a target for Jesus Luzardo. Sometimes you can go bust with him, but I love the upside at 84 and will play at 10-1 on FanDuel. The Phillies lineup, just going through it, I talked about Kyle Schwarber and a little bit about the combo of him and Harper, but it's a top-down lineup. Trey Turner, 57, 37, 12 home runs, 26 steals, a 112 WRC plus. Nothing not to like about Turner. That's why I don't necessarily want those shortstops from that first game that we talked about. Schwarb's at 6,000, 4,300. Again, just because Brad Lord has successfully limited home runs in spots, he does still give up home runs from time to time. And you're talking about one of the very best home run hitters in the last 10 years in baseball. Bryce Harper at 18 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a solid 233 ISO. Monster premium contact numbers, 21.8% Ks, but 12.4% walk. Again, these guys can run that walk rate up, and we're not worried about the strikeout with this pitcher that much. JT Realmuto for a medium quality season, just a 98 WRC plus, limited ISO, limited power output, slashing 271, 323, 390, still making a very effective contact when he squares the ball up. 3,500 at catcher seems very, very reasonable against this pitcher. Again, we're mostly just looking for line drives, a little bit of sequencing, so I care less about the home run output and more about just how he's striking the ball. I want more walk, but these numbers are right in line with what he's been. So not that much diminishment outside of maybe that home run total from Realmuto, but it's not necessarily because we've lost all that much here. A little bit of barrel rate, a little bit of probably elevation explains most of it. Nicky Castellanos at 36, 29 has 15 home runs on the board, a 93 WRC plus. A little bit surprising from Castellanos. It's largely, I think our culprit is right there with that 294 on base. His walks have cut from 6.2 last year to 4.8% this year. Just needs to run the on base numbers up a little bit, find a little bit more consistency in hard hit, but a solid, medium average barrel rate there. Brendan Marsh hits the ball very squarely as well. 7 home runs on the board for him over 299 plate appearances. Another guy probably underperforming his premium contact numbers and the expectations that you would get from him. 3,000, though, getting on at 332 clip, creating runs 7% better than average, a solid 342 xWOB under the surface. Guy we've seen succeed and has been interesting from the lower portion of their lineup, given his ability to get on base in years past. So I like him as a wraparound guy if he's further down the confirmed lineup when we get it. I don't mind him as a power upside bat from the left side, looking for some doubles quality there. He is a fairly high strikeout guy, 25.1, but he does draw his walks 9% this year, 10.5%, 12.5% the last 2 years. And you can see that strikeout rate has come down pretty significantly from 30+% each of those last 2 years. So in some ways, he's made significant strides at the plate and not really priced up for it. Harrison Bader, as people have been saying, just looks like somebody mashed up all the 90s Phillies into one guy. 3,200, 2,600, the ideal pickup for this team, honestly. 10.8% barrel rate, 13 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 113 WRC plus. Just a guy who produces, right? He's not a big-time bat in any way, but he finds his way into these situations for whatever reason. And in a season like this, he's come through. 332 on base has been effective. Just a 178 ISO. Again, you're not getting massive individual production, but a very, very capable bat at a very affordable price in a desirable lineup is important today. 37-28 for Bryson Stott at second base with shortstop eligibility on FanDuel. Pretty limited season, just an 87 WRC plus, 19 home runs, mediocre slash line, but a capable guy who we've seen succeed to higher levels than this. A little bit of stolen base bonus, if nothing else. And then Otto Kemp at the bottom, 3,200, 2,500, 3-position eligible on the FanDuel slate, just third base on DraftKings. 4 home runs on the board, a 133 ISO, 86 WRC plus. Nothing overly special over here, but he has made really interesting contact. Striking out a lot, not drawing any walks. But when he has made contact with the ball, when he happens to connect, his bat at ball events are interesting. That is a kid who came up with a little bit of prospect pedigree. If we're knocking the home run ability, though, from this team a little bit with the pitcher, then maybe it makes him less interesting. But again, we can just square the ball up for doubles, and we're sequencing and we're rolling. So I do think it's a 9-man lineup. Oh, and of course it came out. A little bit different down bottom. Still a 9-man lineup, but we go in a different direction. Let's get that up there. So Marsh moves up to the 5. Totally fine with that. Honestly, that's a really interesting spot because I don't think people will get to him all that aggressively there. And it connects him directly up to the top, gives him some upside for some driving in some correlated scoring. Castellanos sliding a spot down. Max Kepler entering the lineup. That's a premium left-handed power bat. 12 home runs on the board for Kepler this season and 372 chances, a 160 ISO. Another guy making very square contact that looks a lot like his best years. Not striking out that much, drawing some walk this year. It's not really showing up in the slash line, but there's a much better player there, and in any given slate, monster upside player for 34 for 26. And Mundo Sosa in this lineup at 28, 25, 4-position eligible on FanDuel. Second and third base is dynamic for getting to this team on the DraftKings slate at that price. Probably a better option now than Bryson Stott because of the price difference and that shared eligibility at second base. He's also just having the better season. 6 home runs, 269, 305, 425, creating runs right at league average. Interesting player down there. Luzardo on both sides. Phillies bats. Brad Lord darts at 63 on DraftKings, I think, and then the Nationals bats. Braves lineup is in. So again, Kodai Senga. It's difficult. And he's run up a 22.5% strikeout rate this year, but a 12% walk rate. Induces 11.4% swinging. When that stuff's working, it can be nasty, but it misses the zone a lot. Puts way too many guys on base. 2.30 ERA, but a 4.40 xFIP. The xFIP is much more the real number when you're coming in with that 12% walk rate. Hasn't been bad for premium contact, power, totally manageable. 18 starts, just 94 innings. We lost most of last year with him, but we did have him 2 years ago. Threw 166 and a third over 29 starts, pitched to a 2.98 ERA, but a 3.77 xFIP that was reflective of a very high walk rate at 11.1%. 12.5% swinging at 28% CSW. Those two numbers down a little bit this season, but still, the swinging strike rate is strong. That CSW is very low for having that high a swinging strike rate. And the strikeout rate has dipped significantly. If he's not getting to this kind of a number, that walk rate is entirely unsustainable. This will not hold. So a really difficult pitcher to have any faith in. But on this slate, he projects up as one of the the higher median guys anyway. 89 on DraftKings, 82 on FanDuel. I do think he comes with a limitation about the quality start that I mentioned at the beginning of the show on the FanDuel slate. 4 1/3 last time out, 4 innings to start before that, just 5 the one before that, 3 innings, 4 innings. Hasn't gone into the 6th inning since June 12th. Now, miss some time in there, sure, but that's problematic. So since coming back, really hasn't gotten stretched out. And I don't know for sure that we're getting anything beyond 5 here. Maybe he comes out, goes 5 1/3, 5 2/3, and you get a bonus out. But a quality start seems to be pretty thin and comes with a lot of downside. These Braves are not incapable. 9.7% walk rate for this confirmed lineup with Jerks and Profar at 13%. Matty Olson, a very realistic 13.6%. Marcell Ozuna drawing a 16.9% walk rate. That's outrageous for him this year. Solid numbers down the bottom of the lineup too with 9.1, 8.9, 8.3 on Ozzy Albies, Vidal Brujan, and Nick Allen. Think of what you want of those hitters, but any one can draw a walk pretty effectively. Very limited walks on Michael Harris. Drake Baldwin just okay at 8.4%, but offsets that with tremendous left-handed power as a cheap catcher. So there are things to like about the Braves. If they go a little bit underowned against Senga, I think it is very playable, given the option, given that he's going to probably be allowing some free opportunities at scoring runs here. Just when you have a pitcher who puts that many guys on base and has an issue with walks, like a Senga, like a Robbie Ray, there is upside in going and attacking them versus attacking, like, say, a Tarek Skubal. His Braves have been bad, no doubt about it, but there are some good bats in this lineup. Underperforming? Sure. Still talented? Very much so. Jerks and Profar, not necessarily one of those guys. 245, 348, 428. He's been effective since returning to the lineup 184 plate appearances ago. 6 homers, 5 steals, a 119 WRC+. Difficult to argue with the production. We'll see what his next test looks like. Just 16.8% strikeouts. Again, a lot of walks, and those are realistic numbers. That's something he's done in the past. So I think there's at least playability there, and he's very affordable in the outfield. More likely just another outfielder type guy, but an interesting enough spot hitting ahead of Matt Olson if we're going to this team. 2 big lefty bats in Olson and Baldwin. Fairly priced, $5,000, $3,400 for Olson. 19 home runs in a down season, but there's nothing wrong with this slash line. If I showed you this and said, oh, look what Ryan O'Hearn is doing this year, you'd be like, oh, average might be down a little bit, but that's a damn good season out of Ryan O'Hearn. It's just that Matt Olson's name is on the back of that jersey. So yeah, dip for him, still very good overall. 7.61 on the home run model today, again against Senga, who does not allow all that much home run output. Maybe cuts him down a little bit, but his premium contact, his ability to draw walks very much keeps him on the board. Baldwin's just cheap at 38 where you have to play catchers, 28 where you don't. You can combine him and Olson in the same lineup on FanDuel. You're sacrificing your util spot, but it's worth doing. Baldwin's got 13 homers, a tremendous slash line, a 185 ISO, 371 xWOBA, 373 xWOBA for Olson, 384 in the next spot for Marcell Ozuna, just to speak to the underlying quality of these players. Ozuna, 12.3% barrel, 46% hard hit on the season. Again, tremendous uptick in his walk rate, 10.8 up to 16.9 year over year. Monster. He's got up to 20 home runs, a 191 ISO, 126 WRC+. Getting back to full strength, hopefully. Mikey Harris at 33.27 has gotten excessively cheap and maybe a little bit interesting around the edges. 13 home runs, 13 stolen bases now. Dramatically underperforming his talent still for the full season. Just a 267 on base. But we're creeping up in premium contact toward previous levels of significant output. Striking out less than 20% of the time. Draws just a 2.8% walk rate, so we're getting a lot of that premium contact or a lot of opportunity at it. Let's go post All-Star. Since the All-Star break, so since July 18th, returning to action. 104 plate appearances, 366, 385, 693, 197 WRC plus, 327 ISO, 15.4% strikeout against just 2.9% walk. So we continue to get a ton of that quality contact. He's at 7 home runs since the All-Star break, 3 triples, 6 doubles, 37 hits over that stretch. It's been a return to form from Michael Harris, inarguably over closing in on a month now. Again, not a, go run and roster every piece of Michael Harris that you possibly can. But I think it's safe to say that, maybe not back, but back-ish. And that's a tremendous near month for anybody. So love the player. He's given us a lot of production in the past. And if we're hoping for that return to form to stick, that's a great price. That's a tremendous price. Ozzie Albies, 35-28, mired at 222, 297, 319, a 74 WRC plus, 9 home runs, 11 steals. What's Ozzie done lately? There was a brief moment in time where it looked like he was coming out of it as well. Don't think it's been as productive a stretch. Yeah, since the All-Star, 231, 324, 330, and 85 WRC plus. No signs of improvement really from Ozzie. He does have 2 home runs in that stretch. Has scored some runs and driven some in. There's nothing that he controls. 3 doubles, but just 21 hits over the stretch. Just limited overall output from a formerly excellent second baseman. Playable. You're just hoping to catch that the wind in your sails of his previous talent, but rough year. Brujan at 24-21, multi-position eligible. You're just taking the cheap price, moving him around the board a little bit. 56 pretty weak plate appearances so far. Last year, 278 very weak plate appearances overall. The year before, 84 and a cup of coffee. Didn't really do anything. Not much of a bat. Nacho Alvarez continues to fill in for Austin Riley and not really getting the job done. Kid's supposed to have a little bit of a hit tool, but it just hasn't arrived at the major league level. Seems like, either he's not going to get there or he's still just somehow a little bit undercooked. 218, 317, 291, a 78 WRC plus over 63 plate appearances. And Nick Allen is here for defense. Again, Allen, just talk about him since we never ever do, and I always just say he's here for defense. Only a 293 on base, a 57 WRC plus. Nothing slash line, hasn't homered yet to barrel a ball all season despite making 362 plate appearances. This is why I typically just say he's here for defense. But against this pitcher, he does have that 8.3% walk. So if you're just looking, and that's not a significant walk rate, but it's average-ish. So if we're just looking for one thing to cling to with maybe a little playability on a Nick Allen that nobody in their right mind is going to be playing at shortstop, that would be why. But it's not a good option. The Mets, significantly better, going up against Bryce Elder. Elder pitching to a 6.12 ERA. Notably, though, a 4.23 xFIP. We have to give him a little bit of credit for that gigantic gulf between those two numbers. He's better than a 6.12 ERA. He's around this, 4-run guy. But a sub 20% strikeout rate pretty significantly. A lot of walks along the way. No swinging strikes. Way too many guys on base with a 1.56 whip. Premium contact galore. Nearly a 4% home run rate despite keeping the ball down at a 7.1 degree average launch. He's allowed 8.9% barrel, 45.9% hard hit. Nearly 90 miles an hour of exit velo. So his mistakes are allowed and travel very, very far. Last year, all of that was also very true. 6.52 ERA, but a 3.95 xFIP in 49 2/3 over 10 starts. Same kind of premium contact numbers. Induced more swinging strike last year, was a little bit more interesting at a 20.4% strikeout rate in the starts we had him. 2 years back, a 3.81 ERA, but a 4.50 xFIP. Again, it works in that direction as well, right? That 4.5, 3.95, 4.23, call it like I said, right around a 4-run pitcher, 4.23. That's who he is. He's not completely terrible. He can spike a decent game from time to time. We saw a couple very good ones from him. Where are they, though? 2 starts back at Cincinnati. It wasn't a great game, but only 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks at Cincinnati. Went 6 2/3. Lost the game, oddly. That's why wins are stupid. Where's the one I was thinking of? He had the monster back in the beginning of June against San Francisco. But a 7 strikeout game. There you go. 8 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, went 6 2/3, struck out 7 at the Athletics. So it was against those hard hitting A's in that stupid stadium
out in Sacramento. So that was a pretty significant start. We were definitely targeting him with ace bats that day. But ugly all around those games, including a 9-run game, an 8-run game. Short started in both of those, obviously. But going back to that monster on June 7th, that was at San Francisco, very pitcher-friendly park, fairly pitcher-friendly lineup as well. 8 innings of 1-run ball, 3 hit them, struck out 12. Total outlier start. Outside of that game, he hasn't struck out more than 8 all year, and he only did that once. Struck out 7 once and 6 once. And then everything else is 3, 4. Not a significant option. 6,000 is very cheap. Maybe it puts him on the board just as a free square dart kind of a thing, but you're not getting much production. If you roll this 100 times, you're losing more often than not. And these Mets are just very good. Even if they're scuffling as far as winning games, there are major stars and excellent bats in this lineup, up and down, really. Frankie Lindor in the top spot at 55 at 34, 21 homers, 18 steals, a little bit diminished in the slash line overall, but still creating runs effectively. Still a go-to option at the shortstop position, and another one of those guys that kind of want to reserve that space for. Juan Soto in the next spot at 58-42 has 29 home runs, 18 stolen bases, a 244 ISO. Maybe it's not a $1 billion season, but he's been pretty tremendous all year long. 11.10 to lead the team in the home run model today. Strikes out 19.4, walks 17.5. Remains just one of the very best bats, if not just the best hitter in baseball, full stop, even with a little bit of a slide this year. Brendan Nimmo has 20 home runs, has a solid slash line, 251, 323, 439, a 116 WRC plus, remains affordable at 47 on DraftKings, but it's gotten a little bit closer to his pals up there. 3,000 on FanDuel feels a little bit cheap. Him for 3 and Lindor for 33 is very affordable. That gets us to that 4-man, just the direct path Mets. 35.25, so 3,600. A very reasonable 4-man price tag on FanDuel on a short slate. Pete Alonso, 19.9% barrel, 52.8% hard hit, 28 home runs. I believe it was that 28th that got him to the Mets career leader. Not bad. Also speaks to just the Mets output. Jeff McNeil at 29-27, 250, 348, 429. An interesting enough hitter, still largely succeeds via BABIP, but has found a little bit more of a power bat lately. Low strikeout, high walk. Mix and match quality guy with a little bit more to give than that for correlated scoring. Very affordable at second base in an appealing lineup with a 5.27 implied total. Definitely upside for McNeil as long as his price is low. If you end up paying tax for anything that he's done in the past, that's when you want to get away from McNeil, but that is not the situation today. Seth Mullins at 37-28, 16 homers, 16 steals. A good season, 101 WRC plus, a 196 ISO. Kind of betrayed by the 225-303 part of the slash line, the 293 underlying xWOBA, the lack of premium contact, but a capable guy, a category filler for sure on the right day. So very much in play at 37-28, more than just another outfielder. Ronnie Mauricio, a lot of strikeout, medium walk rate so far, 6 home runs and 150 chances, a 175 ISO. Kid's capable, and there's a lot of pedigree there. 8.4% barrel, 41.1% hard hit in the 150 plate appearances that he's made. Not a bad option. I like Brett Beatty a little bit better, though. A little bit more expensive at $3,700, but he's hit the ball squarely all year. 308 plate appearances that have been up and down as far as the results, but that premium contact has been intact all season long. He's come away with 13 home runs, has a 186 ISO that's entirely respectable, 333 xWOB under the surface. It's an interesting player. And Luis Torrens has also made excellent contact all season. He has not capitalized on that 51.3% hard hit, that 12.3% barrel at all. It's difficult to do what he's done, making that kind of contact along the way. Just 216, 283, 304, a .088 ISO and only 2 home runs. Just completely flies in the face of any logic unless he's just hitting every single one of those hard hit balls directly at somebody, which seems to be the case. There is quality there. You catch it for 2,400 at the catcher spot where you have to play it. It's not a bad option. Not necessarily ideal as a wraparound guy, but if you're getting into a little bit of this part of the Mets lineup, which I think is probably going to be the majority of your Mets stacks on DraftKings as your 5-mans, then I do think he's in the mix because he can knock one of these guys in. Just need him to find the quality of that, deliver that premium contact, and just find the right spot of the baseball field. Getting him at 24, Beatty's probably too. I'd probably make sense to go McNeil there. It is a little separation, but that's such a cheap price on McNeil. Nimmo at 47 makes sense to keep our number down, and then we're taking two of the 3 stars. So I'll take if I just go expensive and go Pete and Soto and just grab that straight line there. It's only 42.60 on it as an average, so 4,300 a piece, and I'm getting Soto, Nimmo, Pete, McNeil right through there, and then just using Luis Torrens at catcher, 42.60. If I went instead of, let's say, Soto, I went to Lindor, it's 4,200 on the nose. It's not bad. Not a bad approach to the Mets using some of those cheap prices down there, and there's quality. Mets bats in a big way. Koda Senga, but I think it's closer than maybe that 385 run total would indicate between him and the Braves bats. I do think the Braves are one of the more playable, probably lesser owned stacks of the day, especially up top. And then Elder would bring up the bottom of that. Any news on this game actually playing? This get rained out yet? Larry C's mentioning it right now. This Detroit game is annoying. You have to hope it gets postponed before lock. Yeah, I mean, I hope it plays, but I do hope we get any kind of, at least a fair, strong type of update. I think the best thing that could happen is if we get the pregame delay and they do find a window somewhere where it's all right. If we delay an hour and a half and then pick it up, we could probably get a 2.5 hour ball game in. Something like that, I think would be the best scenario. We obviously have the pitcher of the day coming out of this one. Tarik Skubal, extremely expensive, but he's pitched to a 33.8% strikeout against a 3.8% walk, 2.35 ERA against the 2.40 xFIP. Everything is entirely what it looks like. He is just this good. Presumptive Cy Young winner out of the AL. Would shock me if he didn't get it. I think would shock a lot of people. 16.9% swinging strike, 32.3% CSW. Going up against a Twins lineup that only a 651 plate appearance sample for this active roster against lefties because they've had just, undergone some changes. So it's not confirmed yet, right? Yeah. They've undergone some changes. They have a few guys in this projected lineup that don't necessarily see plate appearances all that often against lefties. But just a diminished team. There is still quality in Byron Buxton, of course. Jeffers is all right. Luke Keeschel shown a little bit as a right-handed hitter for a fair price at second base. Royce Lewis formerly has produced pretty significantly for us. This year has been mired in a season-long slump over his 240 plate appearances. It's just been ugly, but does have decent contact. Matt Wallner, a lefty bat, makes major contact. The output is up and down, and then you're just scuffling your way through the rest of this lineup. So major upside for Skubal. All we need is the game to play. Twins at a 316 implied total with a general overall lack of quality. They're very, very cheap, but they're less than likely to come through for you, even as a cheapo contrarian team. We'll get into them, though. Bailey Ober at 72 on both sites, just 18.2% strikeouts. That does come with only a 5.3% walk. That's not bad, but a 5.16 ERA, a 4.87 xFIP, 5+% home run rate is pretty significant. That comes on a 22.9 degree average launch. We're way over the threshold there. We're over our hard hit threshold, just under for exit velo, but it comes on such an extreme fly ball that you don't necessarily have to hit the ball quite as hard. And you get the right mix of trajectory is there. You can get it up and out of the park. Also depends a little bit on what ballpark you're playing in. But major power showing for the Tigers. You've got 3 guys above the magic number. Another couple guys floating respectably in the middle. A lot of production out of this team all year long. 7 of the 9 guys in the confirmed Tigers lineup are well above average for WRC Plus this year. It's an excellent lineup. Colt Keith at the top, still only 36 on DraftKings, 27 on FanDuel. He's got 10 home runs, very solid slash line. Joker seems to like him. 344 on base this year. Creating runs 15% better than average. He's a kid who's supposed to be maybe not a star caliber player, but that next tier down, like a very, very good player coming up. He's finding his form. Multi-position eligible at a very fair price on FanDuel. Love that option, and it helps with the playability of him and Glaber on the FanDuel slate together. On DraftKings, you don't have a problem. Keith's only a third baseman over there. Absolutely can fire with that one, or you can start your stack at Glaber. 48-31 for him, 13 home runs, excellent slash line all season long, 119 WRC plus, striking out just 14.3%, 12.8% walk, making Brian Cashman look foolish for letting him walk this year. 49-31 for Kerry Carpenter, still feels really, really affordable to me. 13.49 leads this team in the home run model today, 13.8% barrel and 45.6% hard hit this season. 21 home runs and only 328 plate appearances, a 271 ISO. Kerry Carpenter is just a major source of power from the left side. Doesn't really draw any walks, strikes out at a significant 23.2% rate, but not a problematic one. The walks are down from 7+% over the last 2 seasons, so he can give you a little bit more quality than the 295 on base that he's shown, but we're really just buying shares of Carpenter for that monster power bat. So love the upside for a home run there. Spencer Torkelson at 46-32 has 26 long balls on the season, a 242 ISO, another monster power bat with major premium contact numbers, 12.13 in the home run model for Torque. And the guy in between, Riley Green at 53 at 36, their best overall hitter and the home run pick of the day today. 13.08 in your home run model, 17.3% barrel. He's got 27 in 491 plate appearances this year, a 239 ISO, going up against one of the more homer-prone regular starters in baseball. Love the option for Riley Green, especially when I spotted that he was owned for, or projected to be owned anyway, in the low single digits. Again, all we need is this game to actually play. McKinstry, 41-29. Solid season out of him. A not spectacular player, but putting up a 118 WRC plus, hitting the ball squarely all year, a 181 ISO, 10 home runs, 17 steals. Very productive year for a formerly mix and match quality guy. Still priced like one, move him across positions. I like the option. Dylan Dingler, still inexpensive on DraftKings where you have to play the catcher spot, 3,700 over there. 26 on FanDuel, you don't want him instead of Torkelson. You don't want him instead of a lot of those other guys at the util spot, but working him into some lineups is a way to get that contrarian lineup on FanDuel really, really easily with a still high-quality bat, 6.91 in the home run model. He's hit 11 this season, also holding down a 272, 319, 429 slash line, 108 WRC plus. That's a good catcher. There's nothing not to like about that. Trey Sweeney is cheap, 23-22 across sites. 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases. Kid's supposed to be decent, has a little bit of pedigree on him, but has not produced that much at the major league level. That said, very cheap filler at shortstop, if nothing else. But again, we do have a couple of star shortstops on the slate. That is, I've been saying it the one way, like I want to get to those shortstops, but it is actually an argument to be had to go the other way. And if you're just making that decision, you're probably getting away from the field, from the Lindor-Turner shares. And you're going to a Sweeney. On the other side of this game, you're going to a Brooks Lee or a couple of the shortstops from the first game that I said I didn't really want. So depending on what you're doing in the rest of your lineups, just something to keep in mind that there is a very easy switch that you can flip to, all right, I just want to make this lineup specifically a little bit different. Instead of taking another share of Frankie Lindor, let me take the shortstop from the other stack just to get away from what will likely be just, name brand owner or brand name ownership. And then Javi Baez at 35-27 makes a match quality. Does have also shortstop eligibility on both sites. 11 home runs and adequate slash line, but the on base has plummeted down to 293. The WRC plus has gone along with it at 96, just a 285 xWOBA. A lot of flaws with Javi, but you can get there at the bottom of the lineup. On the Twins side, Austin Martin at 27-24. Okay, 38 plate appearances so far. Nothing special there, but the leadoff spot for a cheap price is something if you're choosing to attack Tarek Skubal here, which I don't think we should do. 24 homers on the board, 17 steals, and just 376 chances for Byron Buxton. He is a superstar. He's the guy you would want most from this lineup if you're choosing to go after Skubal. Ryan Jeffers makes decent contact from the catcher spot, but not against this pitcher. There's so much swing and miss going on with this guy. 19.6% strikeout rate overall on the season for Jeffers, though. He is decent this year at limiting that. Is down from 20.2 last year and 27.8 the year before. So significant strides in that area, but he's just okay. He's not anything special, not anything to go out of your way for. Luke Keeschel at 39-33, a very effective 60 plate appearances so far, pair of home runs, 5 stolen bases, a 417 on base, 175 WRC plus. Solid mix and match your way through, kind of a player in the heart of this lineup on a day where Skubal's on the mound. Otherwise, maybe more interesting than that, but pretty limited in this spot. Lewis at 35, at 27. Again, this season has been pretty bad, over 240 plate appearances. Last year, kind of lost, but did hit for power. Had 16 home runs in 325 chances, a 219 ISO, and created runs 8% better than average, and had a similar stretch of power the year before. 15 homers in just 239 chances, a 240 ISO, and a monster 155 WRC plus, because that year the power came with a 309, 372, 548 slash line. He's looking a little bit healthier, a little bit more solid out there. Injuries on and off the IL constantly, but low strikeout, medium walk, a lot of high quality contact. Again, when we're going against the best pitcher in baseball, we want to take some of their better, more high upside bats. And Royce Lewis very much is that, especially when he's priced like this. So you're going in that direction. Well, you're going in that direction if you go to the Twins. Matt Wallner from the left side, lefty. Again, Scooble doesn't seem like a great idea. What's he done lefty? If he's in the lineup at all. He's made just 55 plate appearances against lefties this year. 3 of his 16 home runs have come in the split. He's not a very good average or on base hitter anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But 204, 291, 469 in the limited sample against lefties, 216, 326, 489 against righties. Is a positive WRC plus player in both splits, though. 108 against lefties, 124 against righties. Major source of power, but I'm mostly looking to get to Wallner when he's facing a righty that might allow him to connect with the ball. Strikes out quite a bit, and that's where Scooble's probably going to get him. Brooks Lee, fairly low strikeout, but fairly low quality overall. Does have 11 home runs, but 244, 284, 367. There's nothing really to like there. Just an 80 WRC plus, a sub 300 xWOBA. Mickey Gasper, just a mix and match quality quad A type catcher. Sub Mendoza by a pretty dramatic margin in 64 plate appearances. Not a lot to like there. And then Edward Julian does hit the ball squarely. Always has made pretty decent contact, but it comes with a lot of strikeout. Fair amount of walk as well, but just wildly inconsistent. 2 home runs in 128 chances, a 60 WRC plus, 273 on base, a 186 average. Just a challenging player to get to, and another guy that Scooble's probably just going to victimize up there. Tarek Scooble, Tigers bats. It's probably barely over the Twins bats, but I don't think you really want either one of those things. Keep in mind, a lot of weather in this one could get washed out. And Coors Field to end the show. Both of these lineups are in. Geez, we're coming up on 5 o'clock already. What is it, a 6:40 start? 6:40 start today. One more time, hit the like button as we dive into Coors here at the end of the show. Subscribe to the channel if you've never done that before. Check out rotoscouts.com if you've never done that. Weekly plans going off at $5 a piece through the end of August. Take advantage. Check it out. Now through next Thursday, $5. That's the cost of one entry on many sites, many of the contests you guys are playing. The whole goal here is keep money in your pocket, help you grow that bankroll, provide rock solid, strong industry projections for under $1 a day for access to every single sport that we project. Right now, we're doing baseball, but football is weeks away, mere weeks away. Basketball, hockey, right around the corner. All of those are included as well. Every single main slate for each of those sports. For football, every single game that is played during the regular season has projections. So all those random Monday, Thursday, that play Saturday slates in Germany, we're covering them. So check it out, rotoscouts.com, gang. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle if you get a chance. Our free Discord is linked in the description of this video down there as well. Even if you're not a subscriber, even if you're not a member at the site, anything like that, first time here, you want to check out the community, come join. Click on that, jump into the Discord, hang out with us, chat. Maybe you'll get to like people, make some new friends, if nothing else. The D-backs, a 7+ implied total going up against Bradley Blaylock, who's just a dead man walking on the mound. 7.89 ERA for Blaylock in 8 starts, an 11.2% strikeout rate, 7.1% walks. The 5.16 ERA, xFIP is notably lower than that ERA, but it does not matter. It's 5+. 7.3% swinging. He has a 1.71 whip. Maybe some of that is attributable to a lot of BABIP against, but if you're allowing as much contact as comes with an 11.2% strikeout rate, then yeah, you're going to have a high whip via BABIP. Also allows a lot of premium contact, 9.4% barrel, 44% hard hit, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velo. So that 4.57% home run rate is entirely real. We wouldn't want this guy if this game was on the road in any other ballpark in the league, let alone at Coors Field. Take Diamondbacks bats. They'll be super chalky, but you'll be happy you did. They're going to score some runs. The wild card here is Erod. Oh, what do we do with Erod shares at just 6,900 on DraftKings? Even the 77 on FanDuel is a weird siren song. Kind of that just cheap offset price. He comes in with a 21.9% strikeout rate, a 5.68 ERA, a not pretty 4.42 xFIP that is a full run and a quarter lower than that ERA. He's been a better pitcher in years past, not much, 5.04 ERA and a 4.24 xFIP, but that's only 10 starts last year. 2 years ago, 3.30 ERA, but a 4.06 xFIP. He's around a 4 and change run guy, but can find some Ks, 23% strikeout back there on a more significant swinging strike rate. Hasn't lost that much of that, though. And against a free-wheeling, free-swinging Rockies kind of a team, 24.1% strikeout rate for this confirmed version of the lineup. Some of that is small sample, but also realistic. Also, Kyle Karros is a small sample guy that helps that strikeout rate. So we just look at the guys with significant numbers. 22.2% for that group, bolstered by the 9.6 on Freeman. Cut him out of the mix. You're already up at 24.7 for those 5 hitters. So a lot of strikeout on deck for the Rockies. Can Erod find it? That's your total wild card. Occasionally, yes, in a big way. Most of the time, no, with a complete disaster. Last time out, just a pair of strikeouts, walked 5, gave up 5 earned runs, a home run on 6 hits, 5 1/3. That was against this Rockies team in Arizona. So worst ballpark. 5 innings of 2-run ball, 6 hits against the Athletics at Sacramento. 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. Kind of got through that game clean, though. That's a day we were targeting with Athletics bats for sure. Faced the Tigers in Detroit. 5 earned runs on 8 hits, but went 6 innings. Struck out 5, walked 2. The runs came on 2 home runs. 6-hit shutout against the Astros over 6 1/3, but only 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. Strikeouts have dipped recently. His last 3 a pair of 3 strikeout games, a pair of 5 strikeout games, and then just a 2 strikeout game over this stretch. But has multiple double-digit strikeout games this year. A pair of 10 strikeout games and a 12 strikeout game all the way back on April 5th. To be fair, those came against, one came against the White Sox. The one on April 5th was against the Nationals. And then a good team struck out 10 Phillies back on May 4th, but also walked 4, allowed 3 earned runs on 5 hits, lasted just 5 1/3. So even his good days come with a lot of downside. It's Erod. I don't think you get too aggressive about it, but if you want a wildly contrarian pitcher with an appreciable ceiling, but absolutely zero faith, Erod's your guy. 69 on DraftKings. Nice. 77 on FanDuel. We are much more inclined to play bats in this ballpark, obviously. Diamondbacks doing the right thing, continuing to stick with this Geraldo Perdomo in the leadoff spot lineup that they clearly watched this show. We were talking about that before anybody. But here we are, 386 on base out of Perdomo this season. 13 homers, 19 steals is nice, but we like him better just for his correlated scoring ability to set the table for Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll and let them do their thing. 23 home runs for Marte, 26 for Carroll, 14 stolen bases to go with that, 162, 135 WRC plus marks respectively. All 3 guys are priced up quite a bit at Coors Field, but they're obviously very much in play here and very desirable. And you have extremely low prices the rest of the way on both sites outside of maybe Lourdes Gurriel on DraftKings. Well, on FanDuel too, I guess at 35. But the bottom of this lineup is cheap and there is quality there. So it's easy enough to get the D-backs. You can, let's see, if we leave out Gurriel, take a $4,200 catcher and a $3,600 first baseman. I'm at 5,280. That's still probably a little bit aggressive. If we went to the other catcher, that would get it down to 51. And maybe you can't get all 3 guys up at the top. Let's say that's a real Sophie's choice, huh? The obvious guy to cut out of that would be Perdomo, but he's the cheapest as well. You're not saving that much by doing that. But if you went with the 2 and then say those 3, now I'm under 5. I'm at 49 a piece. coming down somewhat, and we're still getting Marte and Carroll. Those guys are going to be ludicrously popular, though. This is not your path to getting contrarian. Obviously, you need to put this together with things that are less popular. But that was just to illustrate that there are paths to getting those guys together in lineups. If you went real cheap, like what's the... Yeah, I guess it was those two. So very challenging to get all three of those guys up top. Lourdes Gurriel, though, a fair compromise. If you're coming down off the Perdomo price, that's a productive enough player. Just a 90 WRC plus this year, but hits the ball squarely, capable of more regular production. 14 home runs, 9 stolen bases on the season, 244, 293, 401. There's a dip in quality for sure, but a 13.5% strikeout rate, 5.9% walks. We just get a lot of contact out of Gurriel, and we know what the upside for it can look like. Plays up in Coors Field in a big, big way. Del Castillo at 4,200 at 3,000. 61 plate appearances in the show so far, just a 76 WRC plus. In 131 plate appearances in mostly in across AAA and the complex level, I guess, this year. 7 home runs in that small sample, 299, 412, 607. That was coming back into action in regular action as just a 24-year-old in AAA last year, 474 plate appearances, 26 home runs, 312, 399, 603, a 291 ISO. That is a PCL team, so be aware of that. But this is Coors Field, so that doesn't matter. That goes right out the window. 4,200, 3,000 for that kind of potential production at the catcher spot against the guy who is just going. Bradley Blaylock is essentially a batting tee out there for these kids. So that's a major upside spot for Del Castillo. My hope would be that the field sleeps on him. I can't imagine that's going to be the case, though. Tyler Locklear is another guy, 3,600, 3,000. Is way underpriced. Yeah, he's at the Mendoza line. He's sub 300 on base so far in the show. Hasn't fully found it yet. But this is a kid with a lot of talent. I've mentioned his minor league numbers this year in 434 AAA plate appearances as just a 24-year-old, not behind schedule. 19 home runs, 18 stolen bases, a 225 ISO, 316, 401, 542 this year. And that's coming off of seasons with similar kind of production in years past on his way up through the minor league system, right on track with Seattle. He was one of the big returns in the Naylor trade and stepped directly into that spot in the regular lineup. Production hasn't been great, but the talent is real, and he's super cheap at Coors Field. If you just like 3-man that, I don't think it's crazy. If you went with one of these guys and 2 of those guys, I don't think it's crazy. There is talent for sure on both of those kids. Alec Thomas, productive enough guy. 8 home runs, 5 steals. The 249, 295, 385 line leaves a lot to be desired. 87 WRC plus, just a 296 xWOB under the surface is also discouraging, but a 7.7% barrel, 40.2% hard hit, plays in Coors Field. He's been better in years past. Not last year so much. Year before, 9 homers, 9 steals. Maybe not all that much better. Pretty similar numbers across the board. But a guy who hits the ball, connects with the ball fairly squarely in Coors Field. You just take advantage of the giant ballpark, put a ball in play, and you can have a double. Blaze Alexander, monster premium contact so far, over 107 chances, 4 home runs. Not bad, kind of delivering on what his talent's supposed to be. 4,000, 3,100, 3 position eligible on FanDuel. Take advantage. Not a great spot in the lineup, but if they're going around, then around, then around again, it can be. And then Jose Herrera at the bottom, just 190, 288, 247. Pretty problematic, 54 WRC plus. He's here to do some catching today. On the Rockies side, to finish off the show, Tyler Freeman having a good year. We've talked about him a fair amount when we talk about the Rockies and their more desirable bats. He's been a great table setter over 280 plate appearances. Getting on base at a 379 clip is significant. 106 WRC plus. We have Tovar, who slipped below the line for WRC plus, 99 WRC plus. He's just below the surface, kicking his feet, struggling to get his face above water again, but he's a good player. 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 277, 316, 451. Makes very solid contact, 11.6% barrel, 44.5% hard hit. Hit 26 home runs last season in nearly 700 plate appearances. Has realistic power, has cut his strikeout, which was his big problem from 28.8 to 22.8 so far this year. That's a talented kid for only 37, 34. And I remind you, the Rockies are also playing this game in Coors Field. People tend to forget that when talking about this team. 5.51 implied total against a super gettable pitcher. Hunter Goodman at 5,000 at 35, 24 long balls on the season for him at 251 ISO, 120 WRC plus, been their best power hitter overall, probably their best bat overall. Jordan Beck, very affordable in the outfield, 42 on DraftKings, 34 on FanDuel. That's a significantly higher relative price. Take advantage on DK. That's cheap, and that's cheap for two good players. If you just straight line the top of the Rockies, and Brent Doyle's also not bad, 4,180 compared to the prices that we were paying to straight line the top of the Diamondbacks with, run and a half more of implied, but Coors Field. And we can get cheaper with the Rockies while maintaining some quality. Kyle Karros is supposed to be a hitter. So far, 333, 417, 476, over 24 plate appearances. Kid's been interesting. Hasn't barreled the ball yet, but he's been interesting and hasn't struck out. He's drawn a couple walks. Only 3,000 at third base, 32 on FanDuel. Braxton Fulford, a little bit of hard hit so far in his 63 chances. Got a home run on the board, a stolen base. Fulford, 26 and change. I think I looked him up the other day and said the same thing. Sometimes takes catchers a little bit longer, so that's not exactly past expiration as a prospect. 13 home runs in AAA this year and just 171 plate appearances. Monster 361 ISO. Another team that's also a PCL team, but again, Coors Field offsets any concerns about it being PCL. 10 home runs, 10 stolen bases in 379 AA plate appearances in 2024 as a 25-year-old. Not the power hitter that he was this year, but maybe took a little step forward. Maybe just benefiting from some ballpark. Going all the way back to 2022 as a 23-year-old, just in A ball, so you discount the overall, but 15 home runs, 13 stolen bases, solid slash line. He's shown consistent power basically at every stop. Not completely uninteresting at 3,900, guys. 28 on FanDuel. Less interesting on the FanDuel slate because you don't need the position, but playable. Kyle Farmer, always playable, 34-26. Hits the oddball home runs for us. That's all we're looking for from him. Do not expect more than either a zero or the infrequent home run. He's only hit 5 this year in 257 chances. Hasn't been pretty, but he's playable. He fills 4 positions on FanDuel, probably more desirable over there. 34 on DraftKings, not a great price, but fills second base. And then Aaron Schunk also in the lineup, same positioning for even less. Schunk in 258 plate appearances as a 27-year-old, which is a little past expiration. 186 ISO, 300, 336, 485 this year. Hasn't been bad. Hasn't exactly been standout. Going back to 2023 and 508 plate appearances in AAA as a 25-year-old. 14 homers, 12 steals, solid slash line. They're decent numbers here. Not necessarily a go-to guy, but it's not like he's expensive. 26 at Coors Field, 25, multi-position eligible. Just move him around the board a little bit. Hope for a key base hit in the right spot on a 5-gamer from a nothing-owned player at Coors. Could be a difference maker at those positions. A lot of playability in the Rockies. Diamondbacks are more appealing. D-backs bats, Rockies bats. Erod, uncomfortably, would not play Bradley Blaylock under any circumstances. Do not see it. And that's it. We're done. How about that? I said that like it was a short show. We still almost 2 hours. Hour 37. And counting. Larry saying, I could see fading court. Yeah, any questions or anything like that, guys, drop it into the chat, by the way. Larry saying, Scooble scares me now with the weather. Yeah, that's the one impact. That would be the downside. That any kind of popularity and cost concerns, obviously. You have a little bumpiness there. But the offset from him, even to Lusardo in the next spot, is just immense. He is easily as good as what he looks like. And it's a very gettable Twins lineup. We just need that game to play. I love the Tigers bats. I love Scooble. So we're probably not going to get it. I'm going to put it in my lineups, and we're not going to get that game in. But Larry's saying, could see fading Coors in single or 3-entry max, 20-entry, not as much, but to each his own. I assume that's responding to something that somebody said. OMG Lulz was saying you could probably get away with fading Coors, but why would you want to? Yeah, that's kind of the approach, right? You don't really want to fade Coors. There are arguments to be made for going around it in a lot of lineups and potentially the majority of your lineups if you're building a large portfolio. But if you're building one lineup, There's honestly nothing wrong in the world with just going to the chalk plays from Coors Field. Get different with choosing there are going to be so many same kind of options on the mound today at similar prices that you're just taking a chance with any of them. On a slate like this, you can lean into chalk, get different elsewhere, and have just as much upside in your lineup, just as much leverage against the slate. There are high-end bats in other spots. As Swooshbank's playing, play those high-end Mets instead of the Rockies or the Diamondbacks, sure. Similar pricing for some of those guys. I like the Tigers again if that game plays. I think there's a lot of playability, and there's sneaky spots too, right? If you're saying like attacking that Senga walk rate problem with some of the harder hitting Braves, and then just put some of those guys together with some of these guys. And like, let's see. And get him instead of Albies in that lineup. You would want Carroll there, obviously. That's a monster price tag of $6,500 a piece, $13,000 so far. So if you're just taking the 2 stars from the Diamondbacks, the most chalky pieces of the entire slate, and then underappreciated, resurgent $3,300 Michael Harris. I mean, you could just do this, and then that's what 23.9 total. I think I said it was 13 for the other two. That's doable. I would want to get Matt Olson into that. That's where you would get a little bit more challenged against that price average with the 2 stars from the D-backs in there. But you're going to have enough offset of ownership that I think it's a reasonable approach to how to play that chalk. And I am at least intrigued by the Braves. There's enough downside that comes with Senga that I think maybe they could be underappreciated. This is not me saying the Braves are the stack of the day. Don't get it confused. This is me saying that among the lower-owned, off-the-radar kind of teams against a potential pitcher who potentially will get some ownership, I think they're at least interesting given this. This is a notable flaw for this pitcher. And when it's wrong, it's bad wrong. So I think you do something like that, and it doesn't have to be the Braves. I mean, Guardians work that way. I'm sure the Marlins are relatively affordable. The Nats, if you wanted to get a little funky with it. There are plenty of paths to go in different with just a couple of bats. Still get some quality in there and just offset any concerns, gain some leverage against the field in your chalky D-backs, chalky whatever. So there's approaches to it. You always fold pocket aces, OMG Lols. Don't you know anything about poker? You see those 2 aces, you just throw them into the muck, just run, leave the table. Michael Knack didn't like that one. Yeah, like there are analogies to be drawn between poker and DFS for sure. But yeah, I think we were just having a little fun there. I think everybody knows we're not folding pocket aces under any circumstances. We're looking to get our money in. So that's kind of the point with Coors Field, with a team that looks like the D-backs against, again, Bradley Blaylock is essentially a batting tee out there for these guys tonight. Guy's got an 11% strikeout rate. There's just contact available. Maybe it doesn't go right, but keep in mind, we don't need to hit home runs to succeed in a big, big way in Coors Field. They help, obviously, but that is a giant ballpark where just directing the ball, a well-struck ball to the right part of that ballpark, scores runs, creates big DFS scoring events. Worth going to on a day like today, even with the popularity that'll come with it. And again, I promise you, people are going to underappreciate everybody from Lourdes Gurriel down. Yeah, these guys will get some ownership for sure. You have to. But they'll be underappreciated for some of the talent that's down there, especially in these two and Blaze Alexander.
So they're a pass. What are they on? Let's see. This is FanDuel. Let's get DraftKings up there. Oh, okay. Those are a little higher than I wanted. Locklear is actually drawing a lot of attention, apparently, at least per RG. Del Castillo is more reasonable for the upside for the price. Blaze is downright interesting. Not insignificant ownership, but quite a bit lower. The one who honestly, again, stands out in the ownership column from the Diamondbacks, unfortunately, is that sweet siren song of Erod on the mound. DraftKings, the two-pitcher site, hovering in just barely into the double digits. Yeah, there's actually, that's more impactful, significant ownership. They might be off. It does get a little bit more sticky on the D-backs if those guys are going to be quite as popular as mid-20s and up projections for the guys that I was hoping would be a little bit lower. Not ideal. I still think it's worth going to. Odds are it's going to be them combined with some other off-the-radar play that wins the day here. But I do think, again, the Rocks very much in play against the downside of Erod. They get a 5.5 run total in Coors Field. They've got very significant power. Pitching board, if we get it, Scooble's easy at the top. 8,400 is a mistake price for Jesus Luzardo. Take advantage. Tanner Bybee, playable against the Marlins, but comes with some visible downside this year. Cabrera has been the better of those two, priced like the better of those two, slightly underprojected by comparison. I might give that a look and give it an update. If he needs another little, third of an inning would probably make that difference up. But very, very similar options on either side of that game. As mentioned when we broke that game down, probably worth considering on DraftKings, just throwing a blanket over the win and going to both those guys in some lineups. It is the spot of the day outside of Scooble that I think is the most predictive, and I can't say which one, but it's probably the most predictive spot for a starter to come away with a win between those two guys. Senga, no promise about a win. Ober, certainly not. Erod, everybody below him, no way. Luzardo, sure, but not as locked in, and a little bit, at least on FanDuel, more expensive. On DraftKings, actually right in line with pricing. But that is a really interesting spot just to try and grab that starter win. I don't think Ober, if that game plays, is completely off the board. Bad as he's been, as much power as he's allowed, as much as the Tigers are pulling very interesting power numbers and are probably my favorite stack of the day, just if I had to pick one of the non-Coors teams. He's not completely inept. 7,200 is a good price. You can kind of see that in the projection, how he's offset from the guys at the bottom of the board. Again, a unowned Erod at Coors Field, if you get good Erod for a day, and, Dr. Jekyll Erod only shows up every now and then. It's much more Mr. Hyde Erod. 77.69, though, probably worth finding out. Brad Lord at 62.63 would be the limits of my expectations, and the bottom would be, 5 innings of happened to keep home runs off the board and allowed a couple of runs to the Phillies and came away with 3 to 5 strikeouts. That's your upside day. Not much there. Bryce Elder, very difficult to see. Again, a couple of okay starts through the season, one weird outlier start, and a lot of bad going up against a very good Mets lineup. 69, 6,000. It's just difficult. And Bradley Blaylock is just a flat do not play. So cue the Bradley Blaylock perfect game. With that, you guys. Okay, Tiz is saying Roth lowered the risk level, not risk free for, I'm assuming, Detroit. So that's good. Larry had the nice negative score from Erod last game. That is Erod. That is Erod to a T. Give you a negative in a gettable spot and then go into Coors Field and put up a 50. That's him. I'm only playing a couple lineups. I might end up throwing an Erod dart.
on FanDuel too, where I definitely do not need to. That 77 is significantly offset from all those other prices, right? That gets you to more interesting combinations of bats on a slate where it's very short and very tight. That is another way to get different. Like that, good luck to you too, pal. Thank you, Lar. I appreciate every single one of you guys out there watching, whether you're with us at the end of the show or still catching up on double time. You guys absolutely rock. You're the reason we're here. Hit the like button on your way out the door if you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. Jump over to rotoscouts.com. $5 for a weekly plan now through the end of August. So get on board. Get behind the paywall, grab these projections, the home run model numbers, the top stacks, the power index, the game-by-game snapshots that give you those boards we look at on the shows, so you don't actually need to listen to me say these things. You know what I look for. You can get access to the exact same screenshot version of these boards on the website for under $1 a day. Also comes with NFL, NBA, NHL, all right around the corner. Good luck out there tonight, gang. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do one more time at rotoscouts on Twitter or in the free Discord link down below. We'll be back tomorrow for what I assume is a large Friday slate and then usual weekend content. But looking forward to it. Should be a fun one. Go get them tonight, gang. See ya.